We've all seen the posts about simple, automated, passive income. But if you've actually tried to build an online business, you know the reality usually looks more like this. Staring at a screen at 2 a.m., buried under a dozen tasks nobody warned you about. You're told to simply start a business, but the traditional model actually demands you master 5 different professions at once. You have to become a web developer for the funnels, a copywriter for the emails, a marketer for the traffic, and a professional closer to handle objections. When you look at how a solo beginner actually spends their day, the math explains why it feels so impossible to get ahead. This chart breaks down the typical solopreneur workload. You spend 40% of your time on content creation, 30% wrestling with tech and funnels, and 25% in the trenches dealing with direct messages and sales calls. That leaves a generous 5% of your time for activities that actually generate profit. When 95% of your energy is drained by overhead and maintenance, burnout hits long before you ever see a meaningful commission. If you've struggled here, it's rarely a lack of motivation. It is a structural engineering problem caused by attempting a 5-person job entirely alone. Paul and Eric developed the digital franchise system as an architectural solution to this bottleneck, a structure designed to bypass the scratch build phase entirely. Think of it like a physical franchise, but online. Instead of designing a custom brand from the ground up, you lease pre-built, tested infrastructure. To see if this model makes sense for you, we need to analyze exactly how it handles the tech, the traffic, and the sales process. This system is rigid. It requires following a strict playbook rather than inventing your own rules, which means trading creative control for executional speed. Success requires an efficiency operator mindset. The focus shifts from building a personal brand to managing a set of proven assets. The first place most beginners stall is building the digital infrastructure itself. Looking at this matrix under infrastructure, the traditional route is a complex web of software and integrations you have to connect manually. The trade-off with the traditional path is time. You get a highly customized asset, but you pay for it with months of delayed revenue and tech frustration. The franchise path provides immediate deployment and built-in automation. The cost is that you must operate within strict parameters. There is no endless tweaking of designs. Once the system is built, the second bottleneck is finding leads. Moving down to traffic and leads, the traditional method relies on chaotic efforts to go viral or post daily. The franchise method points a single thick arrow toward pre-vetted lead sources. Traditional organic traffic is free, but it relies on unpredictable algorithms, which is why so many beginners eventually resort to pitching their friends and family just to get results. The franchise model provides steady, predictable lead flow without requiring a social following. However, it removes the internet celebrity aspect of the business. Your daily workload shifts. Instead of brainstorming entertaining content to feed an algorithm, your job is managing a steady pipeline of prospects. Outsourcing the infrastructure build and lead generation solves the speed-to-market problem. You just have to surrender bespoke creative control to get that speed. The final phase of online business involves direct objection handling and closing. Because this requires a specific, high-pressure skill set that most people haven't mastered, it is the point where most solo attempts fail. Expanding our matrix to the sales process, the traditional model puts the entire weight of the close on you. The franchise model brings in a second figure, a built-in sales team, to share that load. If you are an introvert or you lack professional sales skills, your conversion rate will likely be 0, no matter how good your funnel looks. With the franchise solution, your job ends at driving and qualifying the initial lead. Then, a dedicated professional sales team steps in to secure the close. This professional support changes the unit economics of the business, enabling you to target $1,000 to $2,000 high-ticket commissions without needing to be a master negotiator yourself. Securing high-ticket payouts is the only mathematical way to avoid the exhaustion of needing thousands of tiny, low-ticket sales just to make a living. Relying on a third-party team to finalize your revenue requires placing significant trust in the franchise's personnel to do their job correctly. It is a true partnership. You still have to put in the work to properly qualify the lead before executing the handoff. The system concentrates your energy on the front end of the lead process. You are still doing the work, but your focus is narrowed to the specific steps you can realistically handle alone. If the thought of selling is what keeps you from starting, Sacrificing absolute independence for professional sales support is the most significant advantage you can give yourself. Knowing the mechanics and the trade-offs, does this highly structured model actually align with your goals? Let's look at this quadrant chart. The horizontal axis measures the effort and skill required to build and close, while the vertical axis tracks commission size. On the right side, we have our bespoke creators. If you want total creative control, if you dream of making custom products and you love the thrill of the pitch, the traditional solopreneur route is your best path. But in the top left quadrant, we have our franchise operators. If you are a busy professional, a tech-averse beginner, or an introvert who wants serious income without the nightmare of building from scratch, you fit here. If you match that operator profile, this architecture removes the major roadblocks that cause the majority of beginners to fail in the traditional model. Before making any final decisions, you should verify these mechanics for yourself. Paul and Eric put together this official digital franchise guide. It serves as the blueprint for how this entire architecture functions. Inside, you'll see exactly how the automation handles the heavy lifting to simplify your daily workflow. It transparently maps out the pre-vetted lead sources, so you aren't left wondering where your next prospect will come from. And it details the exact mechanics of how the sales team supports your closing process for those high-ticket commissions. Access the guide right now. Stop trying to build an entire business from scratch and finally plug into a system built for leverage.